What the hell is a 15-minute city? That's the most popular question I'm getting. You're hearing about it all over the world, in the news everywhere. We know it came from the World Economic Forum. Well, what do they say it is, and what is it really? The World Economic Forum is not really some evil entity trying to control the world. The idea that Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates want you to eat bugs because you're a peasant and you don't deserve beef, that's all just a crazy conspiracy theory. They're not really going to put bugs in your grocery store, are they? Well, check this out.
Rip the fig tree down. It's not bearing any fruit.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, as always, joined by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear brothers and sisters, let us go into the breach. Disgrazia.
They will not allow Donald Trump to be president.
Joe Resinello, let me ask you a question.
I have a better chance of becoming president than Donald Trump.
I'd vote for you.
It's thrown around too liberally, hate speech. Just because your feelings are hurt doesn't mean it's hate speech. So, there are issues here that cross political lines.
It means that your libtard friends are not going to invite you over for Grey Goose and Fog Wild.
If you think that America is about you, you're just fooled.
I gotta show you something that has me aggravated. Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello. Let us go in to the breach. Now, here's the thing. We're hoping to have Chris Sky on. We're waiting for him to click in. In the meantime, Joe and I, since Chris decided to come on the show, we asking ourselves the question he asked, which is, what the hell is a 15-minute city? Sounds kind of weird. Like, how do you build a city in 15 minutes? But my thinking was off. Okay. There's something a lot more nefarious going on here with these 15-minute cities. So let's, at least for now, okay, let's play a clip of Chris Sky, okay, talking about it, a couple minutes, all right, and then we'll come back and we'll start the conversation.
Somehow there's still people in denial that the idea of a 15-minute city is coming to their city. I have people saying, oh, that'll never come to Canada. Oh, that's so many years away. We already have construction projects in Canada with the signs on them saying 15-minute city, currently being constructed as we speak right now. And here, I'm going to show you a little tidbit called the Climate Emergency Action Plan. And this is for British Columbia. And it tells you straight up that by 2030, 90% of you are going to be living within a 15-minute walk or bike ride from your daily essentials, aka a 15-minute city. You're going to have 2/3 of all the people coming in and out of the city by public transit, and 50% of all vehicles will be mandated to be electric by then. So what does that mean? Like we said, they're not going to let you travel. They're going to take your car, and they're going to try to get you on the idea of a perpetual COVID-style lockdown of a 5-kilometer radius from your house, 99% of your friggin' life. So now we finally have them coming out and saying it. Toronto is planning its first major 15-minute city development. And what is it focusing on? Surprise, surprise. Like I told you, they want to make a massive commercial development where you have to live, work, eat, shop, go to the gym, buy your clothes, do everything you got to do, all within your own little building area where you can walk around in. That's it. They are calling it the transition to the post-car future. But no, guys, they don't want to take away your private ownership. No, guys, they don't want to take away your ability to travel. No, guys, they don't want you locked up in a massive building with thousands of units where you can't even leave the block because everything you need is right there. And no, they definitely don't want to take away your ability to travel all over the world or make money or actually have a life. No, that's exactly what this is all about. And the Globe and Mail isn't even pretending.
Now here's the thing, Joe Resinello. Obviously, this is something that they're gonna do. Okay, and according to Chris Sky, they're already doing it. Okay, in Toronto, but we have to ask ourselves, to what end? See, see, to me, you always have to look. You say, obviously, Klaus Schwab doesn't give a crap about the earth. Okay. He doesn't care about climate change. Okay. He's an oligarch. So is Yuval Harari. So is Al Gore. So is John Kerry. So is George Soros. They're oligarchs. They are elitists. They want to sit up top while they throw crumbs to everybody else. That, of course, is if they even let you live. Okay. That's a whole other question. But having said that, you have to say to yourself, what is it they want? What purpose would a 15-minute city serve? And to me, this is my take on it, Joe. I'm going to throw it over to you. We've gotten some information on it. To me, it's one big plantation. They've gotten what they wanted. They got a big plantation set up. Everything that they convince you you're going to need in life is there. As Chris Guy said in that clip, there's food. Of course, that means they're going to serve you bugs. Okay. There's public transportation that's all electric. All the cars are basically gone. All right. The only ones allowed are going to be electric cars. And you're really not going to be able to go anywhere because you're going to have a carbon credit, kind of like the Chinese do with a social credit score. You're going to have a carbon credit, or else you're SOL. I won't use the word, but everybody knows what SOL means. You're out of luck. Okay. And to me, I can't see it as anything other than one big plantation. And that's exactly what they want. Joe Arsenello, I got to hand it over to you. I need some insight here because I'm quite frankly confused.
As he was talking and then as you were talking, I was just kind of saying to myself, if I was, say, a person that doesn't really pay attention to the World Economic Forum, all of the various like op-eds that have been written on climate change, all of the ideas about carbon footprinting and all that, I would say that you are crazy. But in all honesty, people, you should really pay attention to what's coming out of the World Economic Forum. These people are very serious. And here's the deal. They're powerful. They control everything. And what they're doing, particularly in the US, they're getting around the Constitution using corporations to be the strong arm because they control the banking. They control your employment. And that is how they're going to force people into this. It's economic, frankly, violence. And we're already seeing it.
We have a clip. We're not going to play. Yeah, we're playing a little bit. We have a clip of Kamala Harris, who I thought of the clip as an example of word salad, that she always tries to sound smart. In the meantime, she shoots herself in the foot because she actually is. I'm sorry, Joe. She's a moron. She is. Okay. I know I'm not supposed to do that on the show, but she's moronic. How's that? Okay. But in this clip, she does allude to what you just alluded to about how government's going to work with businesses. But we'll cross that bridge in a little bit. But here's the thing. I'm trying to imagine, Joe Resinello, the type of person that would want. How about we talk about that for a second? The type of person that would want to live in a 15-minute city. Now, you can live in a neighborhood. Some people will say, well, what was the difference between that and North Newark, New Jersey in the 1970s or the 1960s? Everything you needed was in walking distance: the bakery, the butcher, the liquor store, the pharmacy, the blah, 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 blah. Okay? Everything's within 5 miles. We have experience with that. I say, yeah, but at least I was free to leave. If I wanted to get into the car when I turned 18 years old and me and my friends wanted to drive into New York City to go to Carnegie Deli to get pastrami sandwiches this big, we could do that. Okay? So, yeah, there's a real big difference. You have no freedom. So my question to you, Joe Resinello, is what is, in your view, the kind of person that would actually want this?
Well, I think there's a couple people here. You mentioned like the oligarchs. That's about control. They want power. Most politicians want power. That's the name of the game. That's why they become politicians. They're power hungry people. That's number one. So they're trying to control the masses. And frankly, this would do it. But as far as your question, why would someone want that? Frankly, it's the cult of climate, Joe. There are people who have completely bought in to the fact that the world is going to basically end because it's going to overheat. There are many people that buy into that. Now, here's the thing. And in science, there are scientists that say that, but there isn't hard and fast science that says otherwise. And what is never discussed there are also a number of scientists that disagree. I recently, heard one of them on the Larry Elders show on Epoch Times. He basically said the climate is always changing. It's forever changing. And could we do better as a human species as far as taking care of the environment? Of course, we could do better. But if you think you're going to control the climate, he actually said that's absolutely ridiculous. As in, human beings are going to control the climate. Not going to happen. Just like you can't control the tide. When the tide wants to come over the dam, guess what
It's
happens?
happening.
It happens. You're not going to control the climate. If it is in fact getting warmer, and some could say it is it progressively going to continue? Who knows? But if that is the case, guess what? You're not stopping it. And I actually find it to be absolutely and utterly human pride that think you can. Just like you can't stop it from being snowy outside.
But that's assuming, Joe Rossinello, that's assuming that the person proposes all this, all the so-called climate change science, okay, actually believes it. I just don't think they believe it. I just think that they use it to try to use fear, instill fear in people, so that those same people will willingly give up their rights. Okay,
I think the powerful people. I think you're right. I
don't think put it like this. I don't think John Kerry gives a damn about that. I think he thinks in his mind, I'm flying my private jet. We know this is all BS, but that's not my goal. My goal is to be an elitist. I already am in John Kerry's mind. In other words, I already am in the 1% because I married into it. I married the Heinz family. Right, so I'm worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I fly all over the world in a private jet. Okay, I don't believe in any of this nonsense. I just don't want to share the resources with the rest of these rabble. That's what I believe. I'm sorry. Well, I don't believe for a second John Kerry thinks the world is coming to an end. Nor do I believe that about Al Gore and most of them.
You may be right on that. I do think, because I've had conversations with people, there are people that are very scared about this. Really, like people, like regular people that work. Dude, it's a cult. It's a climate cult. I mean, ultimately, when we don't believe in God, like have a solid foundation, you'll believe in anything. You have to fill that. And I think this is their God. Many people are bought into this. I mean, again, could we do better? Listen, I recycle. I'm all about that. We have to be stewards. As Catholics, you have to be a steward of the earth. That's actually our job. We can't just, slash and burn. You have to take care of things. But here's the thing. There's a cost to this. We've already seen the cost. We recently just did, our channel just did a clip on the milk in Canada. 30,000
liters of milk.
They're getting rid of it because there's a quota. They're getting rid of it. I mean, that's just one example. We've seen the price of groceries. That's not due to corporate greed. That's due to we've cut the fuel supply, which affects everything.
Well, I like to ask these people that seem to buy. First of all, I wish people would just take a second to go and look at the predictions of the doom and gloomers going back about 40, 50 years. Okay. Because remember, Joe, they say, well, the world's we're in an existential threat. And by 1985, life as we know it is going to change. Okay, no, it didn't. It didn't. Okay. And, oh, no. 1992, that's when it's really going to change. Well, no, it didn't. 2005 is when the crap is really going to hit the fan. We're going to have to do something. No, well, the crap didn't hit the fan in 2005. They keep pushing it out. Here's the thing, Joe. Here's the thing. They don't have to prove anything. If everybody turned around and said, okay, we're going to give you what you want, and 5 years from now, that existential threat, which is no existential threat at all, and nothing happens, they'll say, see, we need to keep controlling things because, see, all that we're doing is working. They don't have to prove it, okay? What has been proven is that human beings using fossil fuels over the last 50 years, and we measure these things, okay? We haven't let these climate alarmists and wackos control everything, and the earth hasn't come to an end. Okay? that all of what we're going to play a clip in a little bit about the head of the UN, the Secretary General of the UN, talking about misinformation and disinformation. Theirs is the misinformation and disinformation. That's why they want to shut everybody down. Those scientists that you mentioned, Joe Resinello, you think the so-called 97% of the scientists in the world that agree with climate change, there's not 97% of the world scientists that agree with this crap. Probably evenly split. And they don't want to have an argument. They don't want to have a debate. You know why, Joe? Because if they have a public debate, they're going to lose and people won't believe it. And that's going to hurt them as far as their power is concerned.
What I would say is this. Someone said, what are we going to do about it in the chat room? Ultimately, there have been tyrants on the earth before. They've come and they've gone. There have been many tyrants, in fact. It never lasts, tyranny. It never, ever, ever lasts. I remember in the movie Gandhi, Ben Kingsley, they asked him if nonviolence could defeat Hitler. That was the question. And he said there would be a lot of great costs to it. But ultimately, Hitler seemed invincible. He was defeated. Stalin seemed invincible. He was defeated. Mao seemed invincible. He was defeated. And I'll even say this. China, which has embraced communism, we know it does not work. They will destroy themselves. I don't even give China 100 years. I don't give it to them because communism doesn't work. It doesn't work. Eventually, their people will rebel. They will. What works, as Winston Churchill has said, it's the worst. It stinks, but it's the best we got is democracy. How to make democracy work, though, is the question. And how
we have a system that makes democracy work. It's called adhering to the Constitution. We don't live, you know this, Joe, but for all those people out there listening to us at the front line with Joe and Joe, we don't live in a democracy, nor are we supposed to. We live in a democratic republic. We don't have direct democracy. We don't directly vote on every piece of legislation. We have members, we have people who represent us in both state houses and in the federal government. It is a representative democracy. But within the constitutional confines, you're not supposed to vote your way out of a democratic republic, which it seems like that's what the road we've gone down, Joe, for so long, eroding the Constitution so that people could just go out there and just basically have a direct democracy of some kind, which doesn't really work. Because I would argue that direct democracy doesn't work. Democratic republics, which is what we have, work as long as you have a constitution that clearly establishes the separation of powers. In other words, that makes it clear who has the power to do what. We have that constitution, but that's been perverted for the last 100 years through the likes of the radical Marxists, through the ACLU, and through others to tell you that the Constitution really doesn't say what it says, and therefore they can go out there and do whatever they want. Okay,
well,
we have a tyranny of democracy now, Joe.
John Adams hit it perfectly. Our government wouldn't work without a moral and religious people.
Well, we have a disgusting people.
No, but that's why,
our people are disgusting.
I mean, John Paul said the same thing when Poland's communism fell. You could listen to it. He has a speech. He said, basically, capitalism works with moral boundaries. How do you build moral boundaries around capitalism? There's nothing wrong with capitalism, but what gets in the way of capitalism is greed. What causes greed? Human nature. You see that, like, we're flawed people. People are flawed. That's when you take God out of society. Adam said that. How our country works is if you establish laws whereby you allow religion to basically work its way into people's lives, to even give them basics like the golden rule. Do unto others, a very basic idea, and also have laws that help families, strengthen families, because solid families make for solid citizens. If we did that, you'd still have your problems because man is man. You're never going to have a perfect state, but that's how you keep this country functioning.
Well, Joe,
we've gone away from that.
But well, here's the thing. Sometimes you have people like you said, Joe, fallen human nature. Okay. We get it. All right. We do have a fallen human nature. We accept that idea. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. But I want to play a clip and show you exactly where we're at. Okay. Because this is not just an example of fallen human nature. This is actually embracing evil. So let's play a clip from the Grammy Awards if you want to see the state of the American people. I feel disgusting just watching that. And I'm not even joking. I knew we were going to play that for the show tonight, Joe. And I have some pretty thick skin. Okay. That is so disgusting. And I've been telling people for a long time, don't put on the Grammys. Okay. When it hasn't been as blatant as that. Okay. I said they're nothing but a satanic cabal is what they are. Led by the chief voodoo priestess herself, Madonna. Okay. Who showed up there too. You get this gender-confused idiot named Sam Smith throwing a transgender guy who thinks he's a girl who gets the first award, then Duta Gabadagats, as my mother would say, okay? And what you have, as my brother Joe Rossinello stated earlier today in one of the shorts he did, was quoting Ozzy Osbourne. Satan laughing spreads his wings. Oh, no, yeah.
Oh, no, yeah.
That's
Oh,
what
dude,
that-
it's a
that-
sick world and
there
it's getting
is-
sicker.
Joe, I said this. I want your comments. I said this when I did a video the other day about this guy, this Amber man, whatever he wants to call himself. He's a guy, thinks he's a woman, talking in Minnesota State House about legislation. And I said, this is the new man. This is the perfect man for the oligarchs. This is a pure slave. Sam Smith, Madonna, Beyonce, everybody there at that awards, with the exception of Ben Affleck, by the way, who had a look on his face like, what the hell am I doing here? Okay. Seriously. All right. This is the new man. These are the new people. This is the new creation that the oligarchs want. So now it's not just they sell you sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Now they celebrate it and they're actually showing you exactly who they worship. That was no mistake, Joe Rossinello. They were worshiping Satan and they want you to know that they're worshiping Satan. It ain't just a show.
Well, you know, we were talking about the 15-minute city, and to a degree, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I clearly go outside 15 minutes of my little sphere, but my world is very small. I'll be truthful with you, and I want to keep it that way. I actually think in the, you know, as far as my kids, my wife, my job, it's very small. I really keep it pretty tight to the chest. And frankly, I think that's the way to go. I mean, you could do that anywhere you are. It's all about grassroots living. You have to basically, that's where you can make impact. But as far as that stuff, dude, just turn it off. And here's the sad news. But at the same time, it's good news for the rest of society. Joe, they're going to destroy themselves. That is one like mathematical certainty. When you're doing it or even watching it, you destroy yourself. It's a lock.
Joe, go ahead. Go ahead, please. Hang on one second. We were just having a little Joe, we were just having a quick technical difficulty,
okay.
But you mentioned about they'll destroy themselves. So
they'll
please
destroy
continue.
themselves. And it's just the way it is. It's a mathematical certainty.
But Joe, here's the thing. And I agree with you. Okay. And I'm not just saying that. I agree with you. Here's the problem. Let's talk about Madonna for a second. All right. She's a disaster, by the way. When I saw the picture of her, evidently she shot up her face with Botox. She's got the lips out to here. She's got the big cheeks, all this stuff. Madonna started this. She started this. She started this in the 80s. Okay. Madonna was a tool of the oligarchs, the same way that all these people are. But I want to focus on her for a second. She was someone who, left to herself, she'll destroy herself. Whether or not in this life, she'll go to hell for eternity. And I pray for her. I've told you that before, and a lot of people at the front. I pray for her by name. Okay, I do. I pray for her conversion. Joe, she was put there specifically to corrupt the morals of Catholic girls in America. That is why she was made famous. She didn't become famous. She was made famous. You don't want to know why? She was a lapsed Catholic. She just wanted to go out there and have sex and do all that stuff. And she wanted to promote that to young Catholic girls. That's what she wanted. So my point in bringing this up is, Joe Rossinello, is that I know she'll destroy herself. All right. She'll die with a bunch of sycophantic people around her that don't really care about her. There's no love in Madonna's life. There's no love. There's only sex, because that's all she's about. Okay. And she'll destroy herself. My problem is that she continues to destroy other people's children. Okay. That's my problem with her. That's my problem with all those people at that award. That's Sam Smith dressed up as Satan. Okay. That some young boys might actually look at that and think that there's something to that. Joe, it's horrible, is what it is. Horrible. And we need to confront them. Madonna's been going on for 30 years about the repressive Catholic Church, and I don't believe in dogma, and I don't believe in all that stuff. I want to be sexually free. You'll be sexually free, Madonna. Go ahead if you want to. But don't get mad when we fight against you, woman. Don't get mad when we call you evil, woman, because that's what you are. You promote abortion. You promote every perverse thing there is in the world. And then you want to go up at the Grammys and make yourself like I said, the chief voodoo priestess of the Grammy Awards, worshiping Satan, which is what they're doing. So let's be clear about that, Joe. You're right. They'll destroy themselves. But what we have to do is prevent them from destroying other people. That's our fight against her.
Ultimately, we do have a lot of control over ourselves, our eyes, and our families. As far as what you have on television, that's in your control. How you spend money, that's in your control. And we could do, I think, a better job of that as Catholics. We could do a better job. Padre Pio used to say, the guy who invented the refrigerator's going to heaven. The guy who invented the television's going to hell. We allow these messages to come in our house. We don't have to do that.
Well, we're afraid.
Go ahead,
Joe, please.
I actually know two families that don't have TV, that have young children. I have one TV, and we all share it. And the majority of what my kids watch are DVDs, which we buy.
And they ain't Disney. And they ain't Disney.
I'm saying, just stuff that we buy them, Star Wars and stuff like that, different things that they like, and they enjoy it. And they learn to share, because I have 5 kids, one TV.
That's it.
No laptops, none of it. So my point is, we can control that, particularly fathers in their house. And the Grammys it's an afterthought. No one that needs to know what that is, because frankly, and that's what I think we can do a little bit better a job on. And ultimately, the reason why these people are on television is they make money. Where do they get the money from? Americans. We feed, and that's where, again, I'll say it again, cut them off.
And here's the thing, Joe. But we've said on the show before at the front line with Joe and Joe, we said a million times, you got to be willing to say no to your kids. Let me give you an example. Okay. So our little guy here. So we're going to give him a phone. He's getting a phone, because I think that we all know that the communications now is more accessible than it has ever been in all of human history. Okay. And I want the little guy to have a phone. I want him to have a phone so he could call Papa, Mama, and 911. That's all. No data, no smartphone, not like I have. And the only reason I have mine, all right, is because I do stay on top of all this stuff and Frontline with Joe and Joe and everything else. But the little guy's not getting a phone where he could go on YouPorn, or he could go and look up Sam Smith, or he could download something from iTunes or whatever the case might be. That's how the corruption comes in. The little guy's getting a flip phone. And when he picks it up, it's going to be programmed to 3 numbers. Like I said, Mama, Papa, and 911. And I think that's a proper way to go about it. We can use the technology without basically giving a loaded gun to our kids. You give a smartphone. Let's be clear. Joe, we all got over on our parents. Our parents got over on their parents. And they got over on their parents, because that's what kids do. They figure out a way, they come together, and they get over on their parents. So let's say you're the type of parent that is willing to give your kid a smartphone, all right? And you say, but I'm going to control it. Joe, I'm going to put all sorts of controls on it. All right, I'm kind of like Dr. Evil, and I'm gonna, put everything on there so that my kid can't go on this site, that site, everything's blah 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 blah. Joe, they get together. These kids know how to get around all of it. They know how to get around all of it. They're so smart. Okay, they're up to speed on this crap. So the bottom line is this: you know what you got to do? Don't let them have it. Got to say no to your kids. Same with Disney. We've said a million times. Same with Disney. All right. Now everything's coming out about Disney. Okay. With the transgenderism and all that stuff, and their feud with the state of Florida. Bill Donahue has a documentary out from the Catholic League, Disenchanted Kingdom, okay, about this story about what's going on with Disney. Don't take your kids to Disney. What's the problem? They have no power, and they have less power if we all start saying no. Joe, what happened to their stock over the last year? The market capitalization cut in half. And yes, a lot of it has to do with them adhering to the woke agenda. We just have to say no to our kids, and then these people won't have any power. Unfortunately, they do have power and they do have influence.
Again, parents have to be parents, and you just have to take control of your house. It can be done. It can be done. And here's another good thing about having a big family. The kids play amongst themselves.
Right.
Like my friends, my kids have friends at school. But at the same time, there's no need for play dates. My house is a play date. I have 5 kids between the age of 1 and 8. They play amongst themselves in their own little world.
Right.
And I control it because they're in my house.
Right.
And that's what we have to think small. And again, keep it close to the chest. You have your church communities, you have your different activities. And frankly, if something is not a wholesome activity, simply don't participate in it. Definitely don't give it money. Don't feed it.
Right.
And if people did that, frankly, there would be no Grammy. There would be no Sam Smith. He's doing that because he's making money, and a lot of it.
Well,
so I mean, people just turn it off.
Well, and we ought to turn it off, because we started this conversation talking about 15-minute cities at the front line with Joe and Joe. Well, how do you create, Joe? How do you create the type of person that would want to go into a 15-minute city? Well, the Grammys is a perfect example. Mind-numbing tones, not even music. You call that a song? I mean, we played 30 seconds of it. It's not even a song. Say what you want, because the Rolling Stones did it back in the 1960s with the song Sympathy for the Devil. Okay. Mick Jagger got up on the stage, put on the devil horns. Okay. It was kind of weird. When you think about that story, it was in California, and the Hells Angels were the bodyguards, and a guy died. Okay. A guy got killed there. All right. But people used to say, well, that was just a show, or that was just a show. But my point is, I equate the two, but say what you want about Sympathy for the Devil. Musically speaking, it was still a decent song. Okay. In other words, I don't listen to it anymore because I have no sympathy for the devil. That's my choice. And it was one of my favorite songs for years. I don't listen to it anymore. This isn't even music. It's I don't know. It's some sort of, it sounds like a chimpanzee's banging on a synthesizer and popping this stuff out. And let's be clear about the porn imagery, Joe, in that clip too. All right. Make sure the little boys and the little girls out there so you see all the women with the large breasts, not much clothes on network TV. It all has its influence. Now, my point is this. So they get you going into the 15-minute city because they want to enslave you. How do they enslave you? They numb your mind, as let's say we just saw with that. But then also they control information. Okay? And that we know nowadays, that is exactly what's going on. Elon Musk is the most hated man in the world right now by the left because he bought Twitter. That is a stone cold fact. And ostensibly, Twitter is going to be an open platform where guys like you don't have to really worry about what we say, Joe, because we're going to be able to voice our opinion without them shutting us down. But now, the head of the United Nations is not having any of that, and we have a clip to show you.
We will call for action from everyone with influence on the spread of mis and disinformation on the internet. Governments, regulators, policymakers, technology companies, the media, civil society. Stop the hate. Set up strong guardrails. Be accountable for language that causes harm. And as part of my report to our common agenda, We are convening all stakeholders around a code of conduct for information integrity on digital platforms. And we'll also further strengthen our focus on how mis and disinformation are impacting progress on global issues, including the climate crisis.
You know what? We could start doing in America once and for all. Okay, we won't get it under Droopy Joe. Okay, because he's gone. That's a whole other story. This guy, I would ask him when Kamala Harris, or better yet, when Joy Reid calls Donald Trump a racist, or calls the GOP a party of racists, is that disinformation, Joe? Is that not misinformation? Are they? He said, hey, we must stop the hate. I turned him from a Spanish guy into an Italian, Joe. We must stop the hate with guardrails in the place. Okay. Okay. Well, when they go to call Joe and I racist for our views or homophobic or whatever, are you going to drop the hammer on them for falsely accusing us of things that for which they have no evidence? Stop the hate. Is the hate speech going to go just one way? It's what those who are conservative and consider themselves right wing, what we say about just people. I'm not even saying leftists, like the one I did the other day about the guy who thinks he's a girl in Minnesota, or say something that we said about the singer who calls herself Madonna, or Sam Smith, or Beyonce, or any of these people. Okay, is it only against what we say against them, or when they call people all sorts of names? Better yet, when Hillary Clinton calls half of Trump supporters deplorable, is he prepared to take down her video? I'm asking a question, Joe, because I don't know the answer. Or maybe we do. You tell me.
Well, obviously, what they consider hate speech is what they just don't agree with. And they just, that's how they basically, lay it out there. But ultimately, I'm going to be honest with you. I'll say it again. Tyrants come and go. Never discount the God factor. There's always that event or something that happens that turns the tide. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like using just, Old Testament reference. The Israelites were slaves in Egypt and the God factor came in. Like there's a saying, man plans and God laughs. Tyrants come and tyrants go. But what I try to do, and this is why we do the show, is people's eyes have to be open. The World Economic Forum is not for middle class, regular people. It's not even for poor people.
I was going to say, I don't think it's even for the poor.
It isn't. And that's why people have to pay a little bit more attention to this. Because trust me, if we get, say, Gavin Newsom becomes the president of the United States, and don't think it's not possible.
Oh, it's absolutely
I got
possible.
news for you. He's Joe Biden on steroids when it comes to like the whole woke agenda. He's on the same plane, I would say, with a Trudeau, maybe worse. And I'll tell you this, we're in for it. And here's the thing, too many people just pull that lever and they don't even think. And he will destroy you, just like he destroyed California.
Joe, I don't understand how people can't see what's going on
Because it's their tribe, Joe.
I
I
had an economic question, Joe. I had an economic question. I know where you're going, but here's my question: is you always talk about, and rightfully so, you always talk about different things that should happen that might wake us up, that might open someone's eyes. Okay, don't you think that $10 a dozen eggs, that's if you can even get them, should wake people up? Don't you think that 30,000 liters of
Joe,
milk?
they rationalize it in their head.
But Joe, these people want to know. I'm really asking a question. But these are the people. I'm talking about the people that actually have to go out and buy the milk or buy the eggs.
I'm talking about them. Joe, over 70 million people voted for Joe Biden. Over 70 million legitimate people voted for him. Most of them are being beaten by him, economically speaking. And they'll vote for him again because it's a tribal mentality. There was a time, again, I am detached from political identity. I'll be truthful with you. The only reason why I vote for Republicans make me sick, to be honest with you. I don't identify with Republicans. I identify with their social position, but they've done nothing to help the Catholic Church with regard to pro-life issues. Do they really, really get on the front lines? Frankly, some of our bishops don't even do it.
Right, right.
So I mean, like ultimately, they're the best we've got, and that's why I vote for them. But I am clearly not looking for politics to solve my problems. If anything, I just want them to put natural law judges on the bench that could protect me and my family if I ever get into trouble with regard to my Catholic faith. Outside of that, Joe, it's a swamp. It's disgusting because again, our people are amoral. They belong to a tribe. There was a time where the Republicans and the Democrats, it wasn't perfect, but there was a belief in God. It kept people together. There was some unity, somewhat more than it is now. That's gone, dude. And it shows. It shows our society is a mess. It doesn't work. And it's just going to get worse because ultimately, families, people don't get married anymore. People don't have kids. And if they have kids, they leave them fast. They leave their spouses. I hear this sometimes at work. Oh, my daughter's 14. She's basically independent. No, she's not. She's not independent at 14, meaning not financially, but she could kind of like make her way. No, she can't. What are you, crazy? People are not thinking straight. The boat is not anchored.
Well, then maybe the refrigerator's got to be empty. Then maybe
Well,
the gas
Joe,
tank's got to be empty, and they can't even get to work. But then, Joe, this is the side of me that comes out all the time because look, we're out there, and many good people are out there, okay, trying to wake people up. What I like to say, what you like to say, is we're trying to raise the consciousness.
Well, that's
Of the
what this is
American
about.
people.
This is what this show, hopefully, and some people I think will think about it. But know what it is, Joe? I'll be honest. Why people continue with the tribe? Because you have to deny your very self to vote against it. And people aren't willing to change. How many people you know that cut their nose off to spite their face their whole entire life? Wash, rinse, repeat. That's the story of their life. Wash, rinse, repeat.
Well,
Same
it's easy to do
behaviors.
that, Joe. It's easy to do that when your life is not affected by this bull crap.
But Joe,
Okay,
their
because
life
but then
is,
here's
and
my
they still
larger
do
point.
it. How many people get involved with bad, like relationships? Dude, they do the same thing. They're affected. They still do it. Like to change is hard. Like to really to be honest with yourself is hard. It really is.
I
Because it
agree.
makes you get and people aren't willing to do it. They're just not. And that's why people continue. Think about it. Look at people who live in inner cities that vote for Democrats that basically make their kids go to public schools that don't work. How many decades has that gone on? That's your only way out. And what do? They hold on to a welfare check, $500 a month. For $500 a month, maybe you're going to have to give that up and figure something out so your kid can maybe go to a charter school so he or she could have a shot. They still vote for it. They
Right,
still do.
right.
I mean, decades. Decades.
And that's one of those things where you say to yourself, "How on earth are you supporting this? How
Well,
on earth are
but
you?"
this is what's this. How did people vote for Joe Biden? In all honesty, objectively speaking, listen, Trump, flawed guy. He's not a perfect guy. I get it. He's arrogant. I get it. He could rub people the wrong way. I get it. Joe Biden is mentally impaired. He's an old man. He's a puppet. He has caused you economic harm and he will continue to do so. And don't tell yourself otherwise. He has.
But there's many people that will tell themselves otherwise, and
But that's my Joe. That's
I just don't
exactly
see
my
how.
point.
I just
That's
don't see how.
exactly my point. Because
I don't
people will
see how
not go against the tribe. That is one thing you want to an underlying issue. Josh Mitchell, who was on our show from Georgetown talking about political identity. That is a bad, bad deal in America. We don't have free thinkers anymore. People don't weigh issues. There's no need to have debates anymore. People aren't even concerned with facts. They just disregard them. I've presented them to people. Facts, as mathematically as certain as you and I are talking right now. I'm not concerned. I'm not
Right.
concerned. They just tell themselves lies, live in that lie, and frankly, they destroy themselves. And the proof is in their pudding. Their lives are a frigging mess.
Well, it requires the ability to look in the mirror and to recognize that your life is a mess. I speak from personal experience, so I'm not judging anybody, okay? And I agree with you that change is hard. Let's talk about real quick. And by the way, we got a lot of new listeners, viewers today here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. We would ask you, if you like what we do here, please share the video. It would help us an awful lot if you liked it. Wherever you see it, share it on Twitter. Please, we're trying to build up Twitter. Share it on YouTube. Share it on Facebook, but primarily Twitter. And if you're listening to us or watching us on Rumble, welcome. We have a bunch of people right now watching and listening on Rumble, so we thank you for that. But Joe, let's talk about free thinking. I like to personalize things because heaven knows, okay? I'm one of God's most flawed creatures, okay? And I don't say that falsely, okay? I've done many things in my life where God has humbled me, okay? But one of the ways you talked about free thinking, I used to think back in the day when a conservative said something, well, I guess I'm going to have to believe that, right, Joe? Well, you gotta believe that because Thomas Sowell said it, and I love Thomas Sowell. Don't get me wrong. Or I gotta believe that because Milton Friedman said it. Or I gotta believe that because George Bush said that. W. Or Papa Bush or whoever. Or Bill Kristol said it. Or William F. Buckley said it. Or George Will said it. And you know what I found out, Joe? You know what I found out? As remember what St. Paul said. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I thought as a child. When I became a man, I learned to put away childish things. I stopped doing that by God's grace. By God's grace. I'm not tribal anymore. I voted for Donald Trump. I'll vote for him again. And I understand about the rainbow flags and everything else. I'll still vote for him again because I'll get good judges, and so will you. Okay, I could weigh that one in my conscience and vote for him. Okay, but I'm not tribal. You want to know why, Joe? Because there's conservatives that would disagree with you and me. They don't want to hear the social compendium of the Catholic Church when it comes to how the economy should work. You think, Joe? They don't want to hear about homosexuality being a disorder and the sin of sodomy being a grave mortal sin. They don't want to hear about that. Conservatives don't want to hear that, Joe. Because I don't know if anybody told you. Anybody told you?
Because they want power. They want power. It's about power. It's about money. Why do you actually think that the corporations, this is another wake-up call to people that are involved in the World Economic Forum, are for lopping off the breasts of a 14-year-old? Do you actually think that those men and women, maybe there's a small percentage of them that would do that to their kid? No way. But they don't care if you do it. It is so sad to watch people be made fools of, and they're getting destroyed.
Right.
And ultimately, it comes down to this. I've told my brother this. You tell a tree by the fruit it bears. That is an axiom. Put in your back pocket and hold on to it forever. We follow people whose lives are a wreck. Whether it's in Hollywood, whether it's the political game, they're a wreck. And
well, let's listen. You listen. You started talking about power. Okay, you talking about the power the government has, the power the corporations have. God forbid when they come together. Let's play a clip of Kamala and see what she has to say. Now, I want you to catch this also. This is word salad. Okay,
it's embarrassing.
She's just really just out. She uses words. I don't know. A 5-year-old wouldn't put together words, but she does make a point in this little word salad that I want to extract, and Joe and I will talk about. Let's play that clip.
In a moment about the fact that I think most of us who are devout public servants understand that we in government have great possibility in terms of the range at which we work as government, but when we are joined with our friends in the private sector, we can take advantage of the skills and the innovation that they so uniquely in so many situations are able to accomplish and grow.
You know what's funny is that we have movements in this country, Joe, that are so idiotic. And when I say idiotic, they're just dumb. Antifa comes to mind. Black Lives Matter comes to mind. Antifa is supposedly antifascisti, as you would say in Italian, right? What Kamala Harris just described, as in that one part that wasn't just word salad, okay, is fascism, but authentic fascism, not you and me going, she's a fascist. No, I'm not saying like that, okay? Or when they call the Catholic Church a bunch of fascists because they're against abortion and contraception and gay marriage, okay? Now, I'm not using fascist in that way. She is a fascist. She is applauding the idea of big government, okay? Remember, she said, I'm a devout public servant. We know who her God is. And it's not the real God, okay? Her God is government. She's saying that look at the possibilities when we enlightened people in the government can come together with the enlightened people in the corporate world, okay? Joe, that's fascism. That's what that is.
That's where people have to pay attention.
They have to pay attention to the words that people, even though it's excruciatingly cringeworthy to sit through a Kamala Harris 30-second clip, okay? We have to listen to what they say and name it for what it is. Kamala Harris just described fascism. Go, Joe.
No, that's why people have to pay attention what's going on in the World Economic Forum. We make a lot of jokes about it and everything, but it's serious. There should be separation between government and business. How we're even voting for that, but people are oblivious. They're oblivious. They're going to enslave you. They are. And here's the thing, and what I've said on a number of our shows, the Democrats are getting flushed down the toilet with the Republicans. You're getting flushed down the toilet too.
Right.
They're not for you. But people, again, they just don't think. They don't. And listen, I'm not saying you got to go outside and fly a Trump flag, but damn, don't vote for people that are going to destroy you and your children.
Well, look at the way we started this conversation. We started this conversation talking about 15-minute cities. Okay, and for those of you out there, we will get Chris Sky back on the show. Evidently, there must have been an issue. So we wanted you to know he was scheduled to come on the show, and we apologize. But we're going to have him on to go further with this conversation. But Joe, remember how we started this? Think of the 15-minute city. What are they? Now, I think we made a pretty good case. They're going to enslave you. All right. They're going to set boundaries around you. Okay. Boundaries on where you could go, what you could say. Hey, we just saw I'm sure there's going to be plenty of abortion clinics in the 15-minute city. Okay. But you won't have the right to actually pray in front of them. I wonder how many churches are going to be in the 15-minute city. Authentic Catholic church.
I got news for you. That's when the church will thrive. You know, you can't stop the church. You can't. It's been tried. Like, I got news for you. That's when things will really, I think, take off. To be honest with you.
Well, let's hope. But my thing is
because
this:
it seems to me, whenever the man puts his hand down hard on the Catholic Church, I mean hard, that's when it thrives. Part of the reason why people don't take their faith serious, we're just too damn comfortable. We're too comfortable. Our God is our refrigerator, Joe. Our God is the money in the bank. I'll be honest with you. In many respects, we have faith in the almighty dollar. We don't have faith in God. We don't.
Right.
And here's another thing. The Catholic Church is a church of the poor. This is an anomaly in the United States. Go around the world and see. Go to Brazil. Go to India. Go to Vietnam and see Catholics at Mass. Paraguay. Haiti.
Right.
We don't have faith in God. And that's why we're suckered into this bull crap. Because
Well,
people are looking for the state to be God.
Well, think about what they're going to do. Okay, let's stay on that. We don't have a lot of time left, but let's stay on that for a second. Okay, what do most rational people, okay, think about God? God is a father. God gives you. He provides. Created the universe. Created you. Created your life. He provides for you. You're exactly right. Nietzsche said it. He goes, when you kill God, you're going to have to become God. Okay, so
That's right. And that's what we're seeing, Joe.
it made new
That's
God
what we're seeing.
do?
And people think this is the sad part. Many smart people, they've been fooled by it too, because they're not anchored
Well,
in
no,
something
that's where
that's solid.
I agree with you on that, Joe. I think you're breaking up a little bit. But
Fool.
what I wanted to say was that their God, which is government, the oligarchs, government in bed with corporations, however you want to call it, they are going to be givers too. Their God that they're going to worship, Joe Resinello, is going to give to them. And what is he going to give to them? Look at the Grammy Awards. That's why we played that clip. He's going to give them mind-numbing. They're going to give the government, their God is going to give them mind-numbing music. What else did we see in that clip? Sex. You can have sex whatever you want. Within that 5 kilometers, we'll make sure prostitution is legal. You could go out and have all the sex you want. That'll numb your mind too and destroy your soul. What else are they going to give them? Well, heaven knows they're not going to be able to get a ribeye. Maybe they'll convince them that those crickets actually do taste good. Okay? And that, so they're going to give them sex. They're going to give them drugs. Let's face it. The 15-minute city, I'm sure, is going to be replete with drugs. Not given to you by a drug dealer, given to you by the people that planned the 15-minute city. Okay? This is the only way you could get a person to live in a place like that, is to make them think that you're giving them something that they actually want. And what do people want nowadays? And I'm going to throw it over to you for a final comment, Joe. They want sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You give that to them, they'll do whatever the hell you want. Joe, I need a final comment. You got about 1 minute.
Well, I'll tell you what they don't want is they don't want God. And it's to their own detriment. And it shows, Joe. All those things you said, what people want, and that's true. They want to do whatever they want to do. That's the sin of Adam and Eve. I decide what's right. And what happened to them? They destroyed themselves. Joe,
Yep.
It's sad to watch. I'll be truthful with you. It's sad to watch. It's especially sad to watch when it's people who you love, family and friends. It's sad.
Yeah.
But again, I'll say it again. The proof is in the pudding, and you tell a tree by the fruit it bears. And frankly, the tree is rotten, and it's bearing rotten fruit. People just have to take an honest look in the mirror and at society and basically just say, this doesn't work.
Right.
How about we try something else? How about we try something else? And that requires a change. That requires you and me to do something else. Maybe it means being a little uncomfortable. But I got news for you. This isn't working. And I got some more news for you. And it's not going to.
Let's leave it there, Joe Resinello. Great conversation. Like we said, we apologize to everybody. We'll have Chris on the show, and we'll discuss the 15-minute city more. We did want to play you some clips from some outrages going on out there. So, but thank you all. Thank you all, and the new listeners and viewers that are watching us, Rumble, Twitter, YouTube. We're really building our audience. We ask you to please share this video. Share it. Share it with your friends. Put it on your social media, okay? If you think it's a worthwhile conversation, we'd really appreciate that. Certainly like the video. And subscribe to us wherever you can. Help us out. So we want to thank you once again. And remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation. And that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.